Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ed and I post videos about my journey to becoming an author and finishing my book and my story in the hopes that I also motivate you into finishing your own story. So today I want to have a little bit of a cozy chat, casual talk with you guys about my story and what I'm writing about at the moment and how this idea came to me and just the general ideas of the story. I'm not going to get into much detail just because I'm planning on publishing my story and I don't want to spoil anything for the readers. I also don't want anyone to steal my ideas. I know this is kind of silly, but I've actually seen a lot of other author tubers that actually have the same fear, which makes me feel a lot more, safer and validated, I guess, because even though I'm a nobody at the moment, and why would someone steal from me? At the same time, it can happen to anyone. So better safe than sorry. Anyway, the story I'm writing at the moment, uh, I'm going to call it Project Shadow. That's how we can refer to it here in the channel. Uh, That story actually started as a spin-off of some of my favorite books at the time, such as X Hall by Rachel Hawkins. I believe that's her name. I haven't read the books in a really long time, so I might be mistaken. Um, it was also a fan fiction of The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. And finally, of the online game Amour Sucré, I believe that's how it's pronounced. It's a French game. I play it in Portuguese because the game was translated to Portuguese. It was also translated to English if you guys want to read it. But yeah, my story was originally a fanfiction of those two books plus the game, and I was actually posting the story on the game website because they had a place where you can post fan fictions, and that was what I was doing at the time. The story did pretty well for my standards. I had about, I don't know, 20 followers, which might seem little, but for me was amazing. And I had enough people commenting to make me a happy author. I got done with the first book of the fanfiction. I started on the second, but meanwhile, I lost motivation because I also lost readers, so I just stopped. I dropped the story in the second season slash book and I never picked it up. Also, because at the time, this was, I believe it was 2013. So it was a really long time ago. Um, but at the time, I was also thinking about the first book of the fanfiction, and I was thinking of restructuring it. Oh, because it was also a fanfiction of The Secret Circle, which was a TV series by the CW. I can't believe I forgot about The Secret Circle. That show was my favorite show of all time. It still is. I'm super angry that they canceled it. I'm super angry that they never continue with the story because it was chef kiss. It definitely had its flaws. It definitely had its worst moments, but I really loved it. It was the OG greedy fantasy story for teens for me. you know? So I really loved it. And at the time, I decided that I wanted to rewrite the first book because I was having all these new ideas, all these new theories and plot lines. So I started rewriting it, and I got a little bit in. The story changed a bit. Originally, the fan fiction was about a witch, much like Hexhall, who can't control her powers. So she's sent to this magic island where witches and magical creatures go to learn to control their powers. And even though the island is supposed to be safe, there's this supervillain that is just showing up at random times and killing a bunch of students. And people don't really do anything about it because nothing happened. The island is safe. No one died. That student never existed. What are you talking about? And when I rewrote the story, it was now actually about a girl whose mom had been kidnapped, much like the moral instruments, and she was looking for her mom. And in her mom's stuff, she had this little chest, again, much like the Mortal Instruments. If you know, you know. She had this little chest where she had this postcard from this magical island, and the main character goes there looking for her mom. And at the beginning, she doesn't realize that it's a magical island. She doesn't know that she's a witch. And she gets there and she finds out about magic, she finds out about being a witch, and it's pretty much the story of her trying to find her mom. And while she's looking for her mom, more people start disappearing from the island. It's the same person who kidnapped her mother, he's now kidnapping other people. And she basically joins forces with the people from the island to figure out who's causing all these disappearances. So I'd say it's a YA slash new adult fantasy story, kind of mystery. It has fantasy, of course. Um, kind of. It was when it first started. It was kind of light and kind of comical at times, but at the same time, it was dark. There was this very big contrast between scenes and chapters that would make you laugh out loud in the middle of, I don't know, the street or wherever you were reading the story, versus parts that would make you bawl your eyes out from how sad or how tense or how traumatizing they were. And I was actually quite happy with how the story was going, but then I lost access to my email. I was actually saving the story on my email. Um, so one day I just lost access to it. I don't know what happened. One day I logged in, everything was fine. The next day I logged in, and the website wasn't recognizing my password. And I tried recovering it. I tried making a new one. I tried everything, but the email simply wouldn't open. And it got to a point where I am now forbidden. I think that's the correct word, forbidden, from trying to log in or recover the password again. Um, so that was devastating for me. At that point in time, I decided to stop working on the story because I had lost over 30 pages worth of progress and story. So I wasn't feeling motivated at all to write all that from the start. So I stopped writing that story for about 1 year, more or less, I started focusing on other stories. But then I went to high school, and as I went to high school, I decided to start working on my story again. And because I had lost so much progress, I was just trying to get down everything I could remember from how the story was a year prior. And I started putting ideas down, and the ideas started, you know, they started evolving. I didn't want my story to feel like a carbon copy of neither the Secret Circle nor the Mortal Instruments nor Exhale. So I started playing a bit with what I had. I started brainstorming, and the story just transformed into something completely different. And for a long time, I've been working on that different version. And the moment I hit that different version, the story stopped changing. Like it just felt right, you know? I reached that idea, and it all clicked inside of me, and I was okay, no, this is fine the way it is. It doesn't need to be changed anymore. This is the story I'm going to write. So for the longest time, I would just take notes of random ideas, loose ideas I'd have, either about world building, characters, or the plot itself. And it wasn't until college that I actually felt that I had enough material down to start writing the story. And that was the point I started working on my outline. That went more or less okay. This was around the point where I got extremely perfectionist, and I was just writing first chapter after first chapter after first chapter. I wanted it to be right, and I ended up writing about 15 different versions of that first chapter, and never actually progressing with the story, which was a mistake. But at the same time, I feel like I needed to do that because it also helped me understand exactly where I wanted the story to start, and it helped me understand the tone of the story I wanted to tell. So it was definitely a waste of time, but at the same time, it was time well wasted. I'm not entirely sure if that makes sense for you. Uh, it does for me, so I hope I managed to get my ideas across. Um, but yeah, then I finished college. I stopped writing for a bit because I was just super tired with classes and everything. Um, and then during my first year as a freelancer, I finally finished my outline from top to finished. That was the year I decided, you know what, I'm tired of waiting. I'm going to get my story written. I got as far as the outline, and I wrote about 60,000 words of my story. So, a big chunk of it, uh, I reached the midpoint, and that was the point I started being motivated to writing, and I stopped again for about 1 to 2 years. Which brings me to today. And what happened today, not exactly today, but in the recent months/weeks, I decided to join AuthorTube, and I decided to record my progress into finally finishing this story that should have been finished a really, really long time ago. But yeah, I'm feeling motivated. As you can tell, I've been working on this story for a really long time. It's 2022. It's been almost 10 years since the first time I started working on this story. It's time. it's time to get it out of my head and into the paper. And hopefully this is going to be the year I finally finish. If I'm going to be honest, I'd really love it if I could publish the book next year. Because again, it would be the 10-year anniversary of me working on the story. So I feel like it would be extremely special if I were able to get a physical finished book out of it. But yeah, that's wishful thinking. Now, what can I tell you about the story per se without getting into much detail? Well, as I've already mentioned, it's a YA slash new adult fantasy story. Uh, we have two main characters. One main character knows she's a witch. Well, in my story, they aren't actually witches. They are something else, but I don't really want to get into it because it's spoilery. But for all due purposes, they are witches. And one of these girls, she's 14 years old. She's a witch. She knows she's a witch, but she's not very good at it. And she has a lot of pressure due to her family because she's the heir to this super important slash powerful family, and the entire family is expecting her to be equally as powerful, but she isn't. She doesn't know if she can handle disappointing the entire family, so she's feeling quite stressed about it. It's From her perspective, it's a story about realizing that you are enough and that you don't need to match everyone's standards to being worth, that you are worth just the way you are and with how you do yourself. And then we have the second main character, which she's also a witch, but she's searching for her family. Are you seeing the connection to the first main ideas of how the story went, the main version of the story? She's looking for her family because she was in an accident and she lost her memory. She has amnesia. And she's looking for her family because even though she has amnesia, she keeps having these recurrent dreams of her family being handcuffed and being tortured by an evil dude. So she's looking for them. And the story I'm trying to tell through her eyes, it's basically a story. I try to dwell into the themes of memory because back in high school, that was the year that, not the year, in ninth grade, that was the year that my memory started to deteriorate. Is that how you pronounce that word? Basically, my memory started to get worse. Uh, I started I've always been like the smart child. I've always been the prodigy child that always got good grades, that always remembered everything with an elephant memory. But then I got to ninth grade and I stopped being that person. And it's like my memories and my thoughts went from being something concrete like bricks that you could place on a wall, and they started being sand underwater. You try to pick them up, but they kind of slid through your fingers. So that was that. I struggled a lot with that change in my person. I still struggle a lot with it. And this main character has amnesia, and she really thinks about memories and how important they are throughout the entire story. because of that part of me that struggles with memory itself, I'm not entirely sure if I was, you know, clear in what I meant. Like, the main story is a girl who doesn't want to disappoint her family, slash a girl who is looking for her family. But the themes I'm trying to talk with this fantasy story are real world themes such as your personal worth and the power and importance of memories for your person and your worth. Um, and yeah, that was that was it. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm all over the place. Uh, I'm super medicated at the moment, and my head is not in the best place right now. So I'm sorry if I'm not making as much sense as I think I am. Another reason why I might not be making much sense is because I'm speaking in English, and in my head I'm thinking in Portuguese, and sometimes it's because I'm not used to speaking in English that often. It's kind of hard to make a compromise between my thoughts and how I'm expressing myself. But I do hope you got the general idea of what I was trying to say. Uh, and if you didn't, please leave a comment down below and I'll try to explain it as best as I can. Let's hope that my reading capacities are better than my spoken ones. But yeah, that was it. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope to see you next time. I hope you subscribe, leave me a comment or a like because that really supports the channel. And I'll be back with more videos soon. Bye!